6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular homesteading channel on the entire internet, not just YouTube, but everywhere on the internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. So I'm giving you a different view today. I'm usually sitting up there in the woods. I'm down here by the pond now. It's a beautiful area that my family and I really haven't used much at all over the last few years, but we are now going to use it considerably. I love to spend afternoons here after I've worked hard, after I've worked out in the mornings, worked hard all day, done my writing, made some content for the internet, did stuff around the property, taking care of the gardens, the fruit orchards, the lawn. I just come down here and hang out in the shade by the pond, and it's wonderful. It's beautiful, and I'm usually facing that way, so I'm giving you my view. So I thought that today, while I'm down here hanging out, I'd take the time to read you a couple of stories, true creepy stories from True Hauntings Volume 3, Personal Stories of Real Experiences with the Paranormal, Supernatural, Cryptids, Aliens, and UFOs. Some of you are into this kind of stuff. FYI, if you're submitting stories for this, please stop, because this is on hold and I don't even check that email account. I still am in contact with Erie. She knows what I'm doing. She knows what's going on. I'm working on a piece of literature that I've been working on for several years that I hope to have finished by the end of this year, so it can come out in late fall. And it's not another October Nights. No, the trifecta is not being completed this year. It's something else, and when it's ready, I'll let you know about it. But so we're no longer taking submissions for these at the present time. But with no further ado, as my beautiful bride dearly, aka Giggly Girl, would say it, I'm just going to go ahead and jump into the stories. I picked a couple out for you at random, and you can get these books on Amazon in print or Kindle, and we do have some in our Etsy store. You can get them autographed by me, so that when I'm probably never going to be rich and famous, but maybe popular and middle class, so it might be worth having in your collection. The links to both of those places are in the description box below. So the first story I'm going to read you is a story called We Thought It Was a Poacher, But It Wasn't. This story was submitted to us with the request that the writer remain anonymous, so we will keep that person anonymous. Hi, Kevin. I have a creepy story to tell you, but you have to keep me anonymous. The family involved with this story lives just down the road from me, and I would never want to have their attention drawn to this story. I doubt they watch your YouTube channel or read your books, but you never know, and I don't want to take the risk. My family and I bought an old house out in the country. It had sat on the market for a couple of years without selling, even though it was selling at a bargain basement price. When we looked at it, we thought it was perfect for us. It was old, sure, but it seemed cozy, and it sat on 3 wooded acres. The bordering properties were farms, so really there were no neighbors, at least that you could see, because it was all fields, the farmhouses being quite a ways away. There's only one that we can see, and only in the winter when all the leaves are off the trees. We bought the house and moved into it in the fall, so the following summer would be our first summer in the house. About midsummer that first summer, my wife is shaking me, trying to wake me. When I woke up, she said, "Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" I asked. "A gunshot," she said. "It came from the driveway." I don't know how I didn't hear it, because the driveway was right outside my window. I told her she must be dreaming. We went back to sleep, but the next morning our daughters, both of them, asked us if we'd heard the gunshot in the night. The following summer, I did hear the gunshot. So much time had passed since this had happened the year before, my wife and girls had forgotten about hearing it the summer before. However, since it happened again, they were reminded. When I heard the gunshot, I peered out the window blinds. I didn't turn any lights on, knowing that if anyone were outside, they'd be able to see me if I did. My wife and I looked out the window, and we saw nothing. No flashlights, no taillights from cars, certainly no headlights. Though we were nervous, we went back to sleep eventually. The next day, I looked around in our driveway, and I found nothing. No shell casings, no tracks from cars other than ours. Absolutely nothing. I wrote the whole thing off to poachers who'd been on foot. Later that year, this year, in the fall, this would have, of course, been last fall, we had some friends and neighbors over for a campfire. One of the neighbors, not the one affiliated with this story, was there, and he said, "Man, you guys got this house and land for a steal." Yeah, I said, it sat on the market so long because it needed so much work, I guess. I told him and the others there about how my wife and I had to sink 20 grand into it after moving in just to get the plumbing and electric up to par and dependable. That's not why it sat empty so long, the guy said. And then he immediately got one of those old shit looks on his face, like he just realized he'd said something he shouldn't have said. It took some prodding, but I finally got it out of him. It turns out the man who lived in the house before us blew his brains out in the driveway. He and his wife had been having problems, and they would go out into their car at night to argue so that their kids couldn't hear them. During an intense argument, the guy pulls out a handgun his wife didn't even know he had and said, "This is all your fault," and then stuck the business end of the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger. Kevin, we had no idea until we'd lived in this house for 2.5 years that someone had committed suicide out in the driveway. This is a small community and people talk and everyone knows about what happened. We're not from here, and I think you know how rural America works. Until you've been living in an area for generations, you'll always be considered an outsider, and no one is going to just up and offer you information like this. We're staying here, we're not leaving, and we're very curious to see if we're going to hear the mysterious gunshot from the driveway this coming summer. The gunshot that obviously isn't coming from a poacher. Take care and keep up the great work on your YouTube channel. Forget the haters, they're just jealous. Anonymous. It's a creepy story. It's like a energy or a synergy is stuck in place and time and continues to repeat. I'd be curious. You know what I would suggest if you're watching this, and maybe not, you sent us this story last fall. If I were in that situation, I would make note of the date and the time. Like, is it happening on, for instance, June 20th at 10:58 p.m.? If so, the following June 20th at that time, I would make it a point to be out in the driveway just to see if there's any sort of visuals to go along with the audio. You know what I mean? All right, let's get to another one here. By the way, I want to thank all of you who have come over to the Facebook page, Sick Twisted Humor. We're doing super well over there. That's why I'm not over here so much anymore, but I'm going to make an effort to come over here and come back just for the fun of it. I was butthurt for a while that, you know, my views and revenues were suppressed because I wouldn't e-beg by begging you for super chats, but whatever, I'm over it, and we're making up for it multiple times on Facebook, many multiples over what we ever did here during our best months. So now it's like, let that shit go, man. Go back over to YouTube and make some videos. You know, some people like that stuff. So here we are. You just might get some more different views instead of always being in the woods looking for him, her, it, or they. Show you some backdrops of the pond, the fruit orchards. We've got more fruit this year in the orchard down here. Maybe tomorrow I'll make a video and give you an update than we've ever had. We've got multiple gardens going. There's an orchard up there that's doing well. Gosh, this place, you should see the man-made forest we planted. Like 400 trees on one side of the road, close to 400 on the other. They're like 20 feet tall. All right, on to the next story. This is a story called FaceTime Spirit, submitted by Brittany Boyles. Thank you, Brittany, for your story. Again, this is all on Amazon, Etsy, or Etsy store. Hi, Mr. Lake. I found your channel recently by searching up scary stories on YouTube. I listened to every story you read from your book, October Nights Part 2. Even though it's close to Christmas right now, this was obviously submitted last fall too, I went back and watched your playlist from where you read October Nights Part 1 a couple of years ago. And folks, those if you like scary stories, ghost stories, just go to my About page or whatever, click on playlists, and there's more than you could imagine. You are an amazing writer. It's a shame you have to be goofy and dumb yourself down on YouTube to have an audience. Yes, I've watched some of your other videos, but I understand it. I'm an English lit major, and I know that a reading audience and a social media audience are two different audiences. One has an attention span and wants to feel challenged, and the other doesn't. Brittany, that's partially true, but there's a lot of folks that watch these videos that are also avid readers. I love it when I say I just read a good book and I put the title out there, like dozens of people have also read the good book. So sometimes we don't always just want to exercise our brains. Sometimes we also just want to be entertained, right, folks? We're not dumb, Brittany. Okay, so this is strange. You would think that since I'm an English lit major and an aspiring author myself, that I would have some use for the experience I'm about to share with you, but I don't. So I'm going to give you, and you have my full permission to, I'm going to give it to you, and you have my full permission to use it any way you'd like. You can create an entire story around it or use it as part of a story or whatever. Last year, I lived off campus with 2 other girls. We go to college in a small town. I'm not going to mention the college or the town. And it was originally a mining town. The house we were living in was originally a mining house, built for workers in the mine. It was run down and barely passed inspection. The owner was a real slumlord, and that's the biggest part of the reason we left and moved into a nicer house this year, our senior year, but it's not the only reason. There were times when my 2 roommates or myself would FaceTime someone, and they'd ask us who that was behind us. We'd look into the phone and not see anyone and say no one. Then they'd say, I clearly see some black dude standing behind you. Who is that? The first time this happened to me, I was talking to my brother. I totally thought he was joking because he's a joker. But when I could tell he was serious, I got scared. I turned around, but there was no one there. My brother said he could still see him, and then he told me that he thought I was joking. He thought maybe I was afraid that I didn't want him to know that I was dating a black guy. We're white. I told him not to be ridiculous because I knew that our family was not like that. They wouldn't mind if I was in a biracial relationship. After a bit of banter over someone I didn't believe was there, we changed the subject. I didn't think much more about this until about a month later when one of my roommates had the same experience. We were having coffee one morning and she said she had FaceTimed with her mother the night before and her mom was demanding to know who the guy in the room was. Our other roommate said, was he a black guy? And she said, yeah. And that's when we became privy to the knowledge that it had happened to all 3 of us. It didn't happen again until the last week before spring semester was out. I was actually talking to one of my roommates on FaceTime. She'd been off at track practice and had called to see if I needed anything from the store because she was going to pick up some salad. I told her no, and she said, oh my God. I was like, what? And she was like, that black dude is behind you. I can see him. I turned around and no one was there. My roommate said, I have an idea. She took a screenshot, and then she said, oh my God, Brittany, get out of the house. I ran like I was on the track team, but when I got outside, I realized how ridiculous this was, and I was convinced she was playing a prank. Anyway, it wasn't a prank. When she got home, she showed me and our other roommate the screenshot. Mr. Lake, there totally was a face floating in the middle of the room behind me, and it looked like the face of a black man. However, when we blew it up, we realized it was not a black man. It appeared to be a white man whose face was covered in coal dust. We spent the last week of that semester in that house, but we moved into our new house last summer, and we have not gone back to that house, even to warn the new inhabitants. I don't know why the spirit could be seen through the phone and not with the naked eye, but I know one thing. I certainly believe in ghosts now, and maybe I just ended up writing my own ghost story based on this experience, but you can still have it. I hope you write an October Nights Part 3. I can't wait to hear the stories if you do. Sincerely, Brittany Boyles. Brittany, very fascinating story. So that's a small coal town somewhere. It's probably not too far from here. I'd say Southwest Virginia, West by God, Virginia, or Pennsylvania. Who knows? Maybe there's a mine cave in, or maybe a coal miner died in that house. If it used to be a mining house, who knows? If I do an October Nights Part 3, I'll let you know. It's going to be quite a ways off because of some other stuff I've got going, other projects. But thank you to the folks who submitted those stories. I was just able to read to all of you wonderful folks who are watching. Thanks for watching. And so I'm going to give you another view of my pond here. A little bit higher up. Catch you next time for more here at Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular homesteading channel on the entire internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading.